In most cases, when you start a writer's room, you've already written the pilot. So you've figured out what the show is, and you've defined the tone, and you kind of know who the characters are and how they talk and everything. We had Loki, obviously, so we had the benefit of our main character was very, very well defined. But we didn't have a first episode. We didn't really know the supporting cast. Mobius was a character that, I had to kind of create out of thin air, because there wasn't much to go off of with that character in the comics.
It's the Deadline Junkie Screenwriting Podcast with your hosts Jordan Imiola, Kirsten Porter, and Rand Shammy.
Do you have one thing from Dexter New Blood that was your pitch that you want to take credit for?
It's so hard. Well, I don't know. I feel like it's so hard because it's all, anything it runs through so many people.
Okay, not that you want to take credit for it, but you're like, maybe I sort of kind of pitched it and somebody maybe sort of took it, but I'm not taking credit. I just kind of sort of was there and maybe sort of kind of had a little something to do with it.
I don't know.
It was honestly like such a hive mind. Like, I know that sounds like so like diplomatic to say, and I'm sorry to like step on Mark, but it was like the room was like so collaborative, and to use an improv term, yes and friendly, that like so much of what Mark and I contributed was sort of built all together. I can tell you about a bunch of pitches that didn't land.
Tell me one that didn't land.
Those are the ones that stick with you.
Yes, give me one of those.
Oh my God, Mark, can you tell?
Okay.
Okay.
So we had come from a mostly comedy background, and so we had, and I at least I don't want to speak for Alex, but I know coming into it, we were like, okay, we really gotta like, because we both love drama and love writing drama. It just, we hadn't done much of it other than what, the things Clyde had read of us before, but not in like this setting. And so we were really putting a lot of pressure on ourselves to like get the drama stuff. And we were talking about the big bad of the season, and they were like, well, he should be keeping some kind of trophies, like a lot of serial killers do. And they were taking pitches on what the trophies were. And I came in the next day. I think that was like our homework. And I came in the next day and I was like, I got it. Guys, he's a hunter, right? So picture this. And I was so confident. I was like, I fucking figured out how to be a like murder drama serial killer writer. They go into his house, his lodge, and on the walls are animal heads like deer, moose, wolf. And there's just something unsettling about them, but you can't place it until you look closer and you realize every taxidermied creature has human eyes.
Truly, the entire room was like, ew.
You talked about selling pilots before, Zoe. Can you talk about, do you have any advice in selling pilots and advice in pitching?
Yeah, I love pitching, which is interesting because I'm really not a performer and I don't like being on stage. And some of my writer friends like think about pitching as performing, and I don't, because that would scare me. But I think that there's, I think one thing that is important, and I think it's important in anything, you have to be enthusiastic about the things that you're working on and pitching and writing. And, I think that always helps, like in a pitch. Like I'm learning better now, you can't fake it. And sometimes, look, a job is a job. And sometimes if you have an opportunity, there's ways to find a way to get excited about anything. But if you can, and if you're choosing, what to spend thousands of hours working on, just to make sure that you're really passionate about the subject matter and that you have a real reason for wanting to tell the story. Because, 20 drafts in, 100 notes calls later, like it's gonna be a far cry from where you started. So, if your excitement for a story has to do with like a flashy moment or like a line of dialogue or this or that, like I think it's easy to get disillusioned. But if it's really at its core, like I'm interested in a dynamic between sisters, like, okay, that's what it's about. And then like everything else will change, but at least you're still writing about this dynamic that you find interesting. So when you, in terms of pitching, and then, I just always try to, I just try to come from a place of excitement. And I think that shows. And I think that that's why I've been able to get some of the jobs that I've gotten. I'm working on a pitch right now for a movie project that I'm super excited about. And, I think they know when you're faking it, right? So, I mean, I'm sure there's writers out there that can fake it better than I can, but it's nice to be able to be like, this is a dream and I would like to write it for you. And I'm not a very good actor. So it's either convincing or it's not real. But yeah, but I think there's lots of resources online and places to Google, in terms of if you're looking for format of your pitch, like that's kind of out there. But I always like to start with why I'm enthusiastic about something, and then also why I'm the right writer for the job. Because I think in a scenario where you are going up against other writers, look, there's enough work for everyone. I'm definitely, well, look, it's hard. Work is hard, but I would say, I think it's important to celebrate other people's successes. Like I think, like you guys have a strong writing community, and I, have my writer friends. Like you want to be able to just wholeheartedly applaud anytime somebody has success, because I feel like there's a rising tides lift all, ships mentality. But at the same time, if there's one writer that's going to get hired for the job, you do want to put your foot forward and explain, why it's you, or at least what's unique about you that can really, show up in your work on a certain project if you're the one that's hired.
Awesome. Yeah, I heard the why me, why now approach.
Yeah, why me, why now? Because even if it's not, an open writing assignment you could be pitching against other people, but even if it's just an original idea and you're just like going into a production company and, there's still a why me, why now? Because it's like, why? And maybe you've had ideas that have stuck with you, and that's also a why, because, you can't shake them. There's one project that I've literally been developing since 2009, and I still think about it, and it's still something that I hope to sell one day, and it'll be one of those stories that's like, all these years later, it stuck with you. But I think I think there's something to be said for the projects that stick around.
Definitely.
And all you can really do is just write the best things that you can write, and, try to put them out into the world and hope that it works out.
How did you get repped?
So my manager is actually, she was my first boss. I was her assistant at CIA. And then when she left to be a manager, and after I got my promotion to staff writer, I called her. And so I think that's the tough part, is that a lot of new writers start looking for reps. And, if you don't already have a writing credit, like a manager or agent isn't going to be able to do anything for you anyway. Nobody wants to give someone their first job. The only way to get your first writing job really is to either be extremely lucky or to have some sort of connection to the showrunners. So I was, lucky enough to have gotten the writer's assistant job and to have gotten my staff writing job that way. And as soon as you have that credit, especially on a hit show, I mean, managers are happy to take your call. So.
Every day.
Yeah, was that, so the heartburn and everything, was that also from stress from the turnaround, or having to create different?
I was probably
roles?
just eating too fast. No, that was just eating too fast. It was hot. Those things are hot. It was stressful, to be sure. It was stressful in the sense that, procedurally speaking, in most cases, when you start a writer's room, you've already written the pilot. So you figured out what the show is, and you've defined the tone, and you kind of know who the characters are and how they talk and everything. We had Loki, obviously, so we had the benefit of our main character was very, very well defined. But we didn't have a first episode. We didn't really know the supporting cast. Mobius was a character that I had to kind of create out of thin air, because there wasn't much to go off of with that character in the comics. And so I think it was a challenge. Part of the challenge of it was that we had the usual amount of time in a writer's room, but part of that, I had to also be writing the pilot. Mm-hmm. So, that was, fortunately, I was able to rely on our writing staff to keep the ball moving and everything while I was off, jamming out a draft. So yeah, it was challenging, but everybody was up to the task.
And what was the turnaround for each script?
I mean, we, again, standard writer's room, 20 weeks was the initial period. And we at least got first drafts of everything, of every episode in at the end of 20 weeks, which was my only goal, because then you can go in and tear them down completely, but at least you've got something, for production to start moving on. That was the point that Kate came on, our director, with the benefit of her fresh eyes and her great ideas, and really helped as we went into the, like, okay, now we've got the basic blueprint. Now let's make this thing great.
You can find these podcast episodes in full on my website at www.jordanimiola.com.
Subscribe, rate, and review for more episodes. Thanks for watching the Deadline Junkies Screenwriting Podcast.